WebEx, and I'm going to unmute Hugh, and let's start again. Go ahead, Hugh.
Hello, everyone. I'm Hugh Gitlin. I am the moderator for tonight's Who It Yourself, the Master in the 70s panel. And let's introduce our panelists for tonight because you didn't hear their introductions before. So first we have Diana Tan. Hey, Diana, say something about yourself.
Hi, I'm Diana Tan. I'm usually just doing panels at Console Room. I'm also with TC Trek Trivia. We do Wibbly Wobbly Console Room Saturday Edition trivia.
Hey, and next we have Ben Ellis. Hey, Ben, say something about yourself.
Well, my name is Ben Ellis. I volunteered with Console Room since the very beginning. I'm the guy who you usually see running around with a chicken like his head cut off during the
Okay, and next, Matt Bjorkman. Matt.
Hey, I'm Matt Bjorkman. I'm just a classic Who enthusiast who's super excited to be here.
And last but not least, Renee Peterson.
Hey, I am also a classic Who enthusiast with Pertwee being my favorite. You won't see me at con because I'll be backstage because that's what I love doing is the backstage stagehand stuff, stage manager.
Hey, and for all you watching, if you have a question, just put it either in your comments if you're on Facebook Live or in the YouTube chat area, and our moderators will type it in, and I'll be able to ask those questions. So let's start with the history of the Master. Not only the backstory of the Master, but why the Master was created, why the BBC, the showrunners created the Master. And let's start with Ben. Let's have some story about the Master, why there is a Master.
Well, 1 year prior in 1970, we had a new Doctor Who, John Pertwee. And to change things up, so to speak, they decided to make all his stories earthbound. And in the words of Karen Six, I believe, you have two kind of earthbound stories. You can have Mad Scientist or Frankenstein Monster. This was working for the first season, but they needed to do something different. Through the years of Doctor Who, he always had, he was fighting monsters or robots, but he needed a Moriarty to his Sherlock Holmes, and that's where the Master came.
Okay, that's a very simple explanation of the Master. Now let's tell the story of the Master. Who is the Master, and what's the Master's relationship with the Doctor? Let's start with Renee on that.
Well, the Master's relationship with the Doctor, in my mind, based on what I've seen and fanfic and some other things that I've participated, is the Doctor and the Master go back a long ways. They were boyhood friends. They were chums at school. They were thick as thieves. But then there was, I think, an ideological falling out between these two close friends. And I think it had to do with the maturation process. I also think it had to do with the Doctor is, to humans, he's really, really fast, and he's got a lot of brain going on. But among the Time Lords, probably not so much, because he took, and I know everybody right now is going, how can you say that? He did not pass his exams on time or well. He is good at flying by the seat of his pants because he's got this old Type 40 capsule that he keeps patching together. And my God, it's like watching your old uncles work on a 1957 Buick in the driveway. All he really needs is a beer. And somebody else to say, well, you know, you really ought to get that thing looked at. And I had one in 1956. So with this relationship, sorry, I got sidetracked. With the relationship, they have to have each other. And we see that relationship go all the way through the 70s and all the way up into the contemporary situation where they still need each other. They have the opportunity to polish each other off or to kill each other or leave you out in space or leave you wherever, and yet they don't. They need each other.
Um,
I think that's the very basis of it.
Matt or Diana or Ben, do you have anything to add to that? Let's raise your hand and we can.
And I have to say about it.
Okay, Ben.
No, I'd like to hear what Matt or Diana have to say.
Yeah, Matt. Let's see what Matt has to say. Matt.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it is mentioned in the episode, specifically in the time on. Well, no, in Terror of the Autons, when the Master first appears, it's mentioned right off the cuff that the Master had a higher grade than the Doctor. He is probably, if you want to look at, the Master was probably a little bit more smarter than the Doctor. It's mentioned, obviously, that they were in the same school together. They messed with each other's experiments. They did that sort of thing. So they were very close early on. And in some ways, there you can see in several of the episodes, even in the 70s, there are that hint of that kind of sadness the Doctor has, that he is basically fighting with his old friend, someone who was close to him, and such.
Diana.
To be honest, they've covered it. Again, it's just, and even contemporary has brought into that, but with the Third Doctor and the Master, can't remember now the episode. Matt, maybe you can. Where he just got his TARDIS for one of those missions, and he's, asking. He goes, "If you want to get out of here to the Master, you have to. We both have to help. We have to both do this. Like we're not going to destroy each other, but let's both save each other right now." So there is that.
Yeah. Ben, you had something to say?
That episode is Colony in Space. Renee, am I right?
Repeat it?
Renee, I believe that episode is Colony in Space. Is that what Diana just mentioned? Is that correct?
Yes. We also have a comment about the Doctor's education. If we go into the Tom Baker years with the Key to Time, Romana throws his not great educational prowess in his face, and he gets a little stuffy about it. I mean, he really gets huffy about this. And Matthew, what you said a few minutes ago about there's a sadness there, and one thing that I would like for the writers to explore is I would like for the Doctor Who writers to go back and explore this relationship, and I would kind of like to know where this loss of friendship happened. Where was the divergent path where the Doctor went to chaotic good? I guess that's the best you could call it. And the Master went towards the whole just chaotic evil megalomaniac control the universe sort of thing. And I would like to explore that story.
Well, I think it was explored in New Who with the John Sim, the drums in his head. I mean, finally the explanation came in the 2000s. It never came in the 70s or 80s, but it came in the 2000s.
But not enough.
Yeah, but let's go on to the actors. Roger, number one. Ben, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just want to say too.
Oh,
what makes the Master a great character during his first run is we know certain things about him, but we don't know everything about him. And I think, for any good TV series, you have to have a sense of mystery. I am glad they waited until, Utopia, Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords, to explore that. And you have to give a character time, and that's what I think Terrence Dixon very well.
Renee.
With what Ben Ellis just said, one of the things that I have in my notes about this whole thing, and I wrote it down a little while ago, is that one of the things that I love about the classic Doctor Who series is the short 30-minute-ish episodes. Mm. And I like that they have all of these episodes that are going on. You get a lot more information, I think. I just find it so much more satisfying than the new Doctor Who reboot where you've got an hour, maybe you've got 2 episodes. But instead, you know that this is going to be 25 to 30 minutes. You know there's going to be a cliffhanger at the end, but you also know that at the very, very beginning of each and every episode, you're going to get that tiny little 2.5 minute recap. 2.5 minutes. The 2.5 minute recap every time. And every time you can get slotted straight into the episode. And it's absolutely brilliant.
Does anyone have anything else to say about the Master, either the character or the BBC stuff? Okay, let's go on to the actors.
Can I just share a little bit of? Well, I'll share the trivia. I'll share the trivia at the end. So, but let's talk about the actors.
Let's go on to the actors. Number 1, Roger Delgado. Ben, I know you're a big fan.
I am a big fan.
I know you're a big fan.
What can I say? Roger was a great actor, and he encompasses that villain so well. You know, but here's the thing: I was thinking about this. You know, he's also not Roger, but how he plays the Master. The Master's kind of a screw up, because it seems every time he has this great scheme to get the Doctor, you know, something always kind of stands in his way. A perfect example, and he kind of lies to the Doctor too. A perfect example of this is Claws of Axos. Because in Claws of Axos, he assumes I'll take over the Axons, I'll make them do what's what for me, and they kind of make him their prisoner. But Roger was a great actor. He played a great villain, you know. And if you're looking for other stuff of Rogers to watch, I would recommend his Avengers episodes are great.
Oh, don't forget the Saint. Don't forget the Saint.
Yes.
Thank you. I was going to ask you but also, interesting fact about Roger as an actor, he was in a radio play by Victor Pemberton called The Slide.
Yes.
And The Slide later became Fury from the Deep.
Yep.
So that's what I do.
The really great thing about Roger Delgado as an actor, I mean, if you look up his filmography on IMDb, the man was working incessantly.
Yeah.
There's not a gap in there from when he started working, I think, in about 1950.
Mm-hmm.
He really had regular work. There's not a gap between then and when he passed in the car crash.
Yep.
I mean, there's really not much gap there.
No.
There really isn't.
And here's the interesting thing. I'll tell my little bit of trivia too. So as you guys know, Frontier in Space was his last story because he had died in Turkey. What I read is he was going to be in the very last episode of John Pertwee's last season. And the episode is going to be called The Final Battle. This is a rumor I've heard that he was going to get thrown into a lava pit. That's a rumor, but unfortunately he died, and so we got Planet of the Spiders.
It's also worth noting he was also in Quatermass 2, I believe, where he made a rare heroic role as a reporter who helps Quatermass out.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, when Joe Grant, her name just totally left me.
Katie Manning.
Yeah, when Katie Manning was here, we talked about this a little bit. She said that Roger Delgado and Pertwee were really good friends, that they spent a lot of time together, they went out to dinner together, they shared things with each other's families. So, and I think that's really, really heartwarming to hear that off screen they had good chemistry, just as good as they had on screen. And I'm sorry about my whiny dog. Somebody's playing with RC cars out there and he just goes fast.
Those dogs, I tell you. Here's another interesting thing I want to share about Roger. 2000, I don't remember what it was, but Michael Sherd, who played Admiral Ozzel in Empire Strikes Back, had appeared in a few episodes of Doctor Who. And he had appeared in an episode of Doctor Who called The Mind of Evil with Roger as the Master, obviously. And in the panel, I asked him, what was his fondest memory of Roger? And he told me this story about how Roger said one day, instead of rehearsing, let's go around and sing Christmas carols and collect money for the children's hospital. And that's what they did. Him, John, and Katie did. That's the kind of guy Roger was.
Okay. Anyone else on Roger? Let's go to the other one. Peter Pratt, who played the Master in the 1976 story, the only Baker story with the Master. Or no, they're one of the first, and then Anthony Ainley, of course, at the end of the Baker run. But the 1976 story with the Master, what was that story, Renee?
That was with Tom Baker, The Deadly Assassin.
And does anyone have anything about Peter Pratt that they want to say?
Loved
It
him
was
as
his only appearance, number one.
I loved him as an actor. And here's the thing. Deadly Assassin was probably the second Doctor Who story I saw on VHS as a kid. And I absorbed all the Doctor Who and books and magazines that are out there, still do. And I just remember I was really disappointed because, when I read about the Master, I mean, obviously I saw Anthony Ainley and the Five Doctors. Excuse me. Saw Ainley and the Five Doctors. And I was really sad because what is this grotesque skull-looking person?
They put him under all this makeup, and it didn't really. The whole idea, I think, the Master was to have a semi-humanoid, someone that looked like me and you, to be his foil, and really, that story didn't have a humanoid foil.
No, it didn't. But the reason behind that, though, Hugh, is because Tom Baker was very insistent that, because the previous story was The Hand of Fear with Elizabeth Slade's last story is Sarah Jane. So he was of the opinion that I don't need a companion. So we're gonna do 4 episodes, and he never has he always needs someone, in my opinion, who's like a side companion. Actually no, he was by himself mostly in Deadly Assassin. Never mind. But this was like a trial run to see if he could just do the show by himself without a companion. I'm curious to hear Matt, Diana, and Renee's thoughts. I think Deadly Assassin is a great story. I think the Deadly Assassin, the Master finally kind of gets the Doctor's goat a little bit. So.
I will admit, Peter Pratt is one of my favorite Masters. What really sells it, and if I recall correctly, Peter Pratt had done some Gilbert and Sullivan on stage and things like that. Peter Pratt mostly works through his voice. His voice has a very, it drips with pure evil. I think someone said Peter Pratt's Master is the Master with all the suaveness taken off. It's him boiled down to his very core. So you get with Peter Pratt this very voice that drips each word with just anger and hatred and evil, and he sells it so well. Even under all that makeup, he sells the Master so well for me.
Are we still here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just taking a little break, and because Diana hasn't had a chance to speak, so I'm going to give her.
I would like to hear what Diana has to say.
Yeah, let's hear Diana. Diana?
The Deadly Assassin, I'm going to say I don't remember it, and when I was cramming, I never got to it. So I know I've seen it, I just can't remember me for it. There's so much Who that's in my brain. Mm-hmm. So I have to pass this one.
Oh, good. Well, what I like about Peter, Matt and Ben touched on this, is his vocal ability. With my brain just left me. I've been working on a bottle of wine over here. There's a Hail Hydrate. With the first Master, we had basically an evil 007. An evil space 007. That's what I wanted to say. But when we have Peter, we have somebody who is clearly damaged. And not just a little bit. He is clearly a damaged individual. And Peter does a good job at conveying how incredibly wounded the Master is at this point. And I think what strikes me is, first of all, I don't remember how many episodes it was. It was what 5 episodes, 4? I mean, it was a long chunk of episodes. And to have a new doctor and a new master, I think the best way they could have gone about it really is to have Peter in this weeping, wounded, walking, sore. He was almost pustulant.
I have a question then on this. Could it be still Roger's face, but he cannot regenerate? Something like that?
Roger died in 1973, so that wouldn't have been
Right.
possible. But I don't think that'd be such a good idea. Because, the thing is, the last time we see the Master, if I blank on this, someone help me. He's getting
Frontiers in Space.
Yeah, Frontiers in Space, like getting carted off by the Daleks, or dealing with the Ogrons and the Daleks. This Master that we're seeing, he has hit rock bottom. And I'm not just saying that because his face is literally rocky.
Yeah.
But
he's working with the Ogrons, right?
Yes, in Frontier in Space. But
he's working with the Ogrons. How low do you have to go?
Yeah. But here the thing is, he has an ally in Goth. So, spoiler, Oh man. But he has an ally in Chancellor Goth, and he knows Goth can get him better. But what's great about Peter role 2 is, at the end of episode 4, we think he's dead. The doctor's like, no, he just injected himself with something. He's not really dead.
Okay.
And then at the 1 second for you. And then at the end we hear that legendary cackle.
Mm-hmm.
Don't see him for 5 years.
Let's go on to stories.
Okay.
I mean, let's talk about the first story, that the Master appeared in, and go throughout the 9 stories with Pertwee, and we just talked about the 1 story with Baker. So let's start out with the first story and go swiftly through those other stories.
Terror of the Autons is the first story.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I love it. It's a continuance from Spearhead from Space, which was started the previous season, so it makes the fans feel so comfortable. The perfect thing about the Master in this episode is another Time Lord comes to the Doctor and says, "Oh yeah, by the way, the Master's coming back." And I think that's just such a perfect introduction. Instead of having him just show up and, "Oh, hello, Doctor, how are you?" The thing that I find very campy about Terror of the Autons is all the CSO chroma key. Especially Mrs. Farrell's kitchen and the lunchbox the 2 scientists get put
into. Anyone else on Terror of the Autons? Yes.
Terror of the Autons, there's actually a little scene I was just thinking about from there that just a wonderful little introduction with the Master and the Doctor is. It's 2 separate scenes where the Master's talking to, I believe it's Rex, who runs the plastic factory, and
Yep.
they're talking about some plan they've got, and the Master says, "Oh, the Doctor will fall for this. Curiosity is his weakness." And then, like a couple scenes after that, the Doctor's talking to the Brigadier and says, "Oh, the Master will fall for this. Vanity is his weakness." So it sets up that both of them know each other so well that they're able to play off each other's plans.
I'd like to say, in Terror of the Autons, it's like his first chance to really get the TARDIS going again, because there was the Master's TARDIS, the horse carriage.
Yep.
And so he takes the part, and then it's the wrong part. So he was really, of course, disappointed. Also, I think that kind of scared. That episode scared me because I never wanted to sit in plastic chairs ever. Ever. When he's sliding down.
Should be good for the environment to discourage people using plastic.
Exactly. And
Now.
here's the interesting thing about that episode: the cliff, because that episode literally was scary to children and to a lot of people. Because we have the scene in episode 2 where the policemen, their masks are pulled off in their autons. Then we have the scene where that doll attacks Mr. Farrell, and that thing is freaky.
Ugh.
Let's go on to the second story.
Ooh. Mind of
That's
Evil.
the mind of evil.
The Mind of
Okay.
Evil.
Renee, let's hear about the Mind of Evil first. A little story of the Mind of Evil.
Believe it or not, it's utterly forgettable.
Okay, let's go on to
I'm
story
sorry,
3
but
then.
this is one of them that whenever I think of this time period, that's the one that leaves my brain first. My brain starts with the Terror of Autons, it skips over Mind of Evil, and goes directly into the Claws of Axos, which is my unabashed favorite.
See, Mind of Evil is actually my favorite. I really
So we
like
can
it.
talk about. So Matt, talk about the Mind of Evil.
Well, the Mind of Evil is kind of a really interesting episode for the Master because, well, spoiler alert, at the end of Terror of the Auton, the Master is essentially stuck on Earth. So you have this whole story where he's set up this plan specifically on Earth involving mind parasites. And yeah, the plan is a little bit out there, but it's the nearest you get to seeing the Master being specifically a Bond villain. Mind of Evil is a Bond movie in Doctor Who shape. The Master's hijacking a missile. He's got an army of convicts, sorry, and it's got a huge battle at a prison jail, which got the director fired from doing any other Doctor Who work after this. Because it went ridiculous.
The directorial work in this is fantastic.
Oh, it's amazing.
The directorial work in The Mind of Evil is really, really good. I think it's equally as good in The Mind of Evil as with The Daemons. The directorial work in those two pieces was brilliant.
And there's one scene in the story which actually New Who played off of, which is when the Master's exposed to the mind parasites, it shows you your greatest fear. What he sees is a huge apparition of the Doctor laughing at him. His biggest fear is the Doctor basically making him look like a fool, which gets played back in The Last of the Time Lords, where the Master's biggest fear is revealed to be the Doctor forgiving him. It's the Doctor making a fool of any of his plans, taking him down a notch, if you want to say. But it's a wonderful little peek into the Master's mentality, basically. But yeah, I love Mind of Evil. It's great.
Anyone else on Mind of Evil?
Mind of Evil, I agree with Renee and Matt on both ends. Mind of Evil is a very forgettable story, but it is a great story.
It sets up the Master is now stuck on Earth.
Yep.
He's going to be meddling with us. And because he is stuck on Earth, he hates us.
Yep.
And because the Doctor likes us, he hates us.
Mm-hmm.
And because we smell bad, he hates us. And because we're stupid, he hates us. Because we're gullible, he hates us. And we start seeing the grocery list of why he hates us and why he wants to eradicate Earth. So we get that clear message, very clearly set up so that we are under no compunction to think otherwise, that he detests Earth and Earthlings and humans.
Here's the interesting thing about Mind of Evil for me, guys, Renee, and guys, everybody else, is that does he is there some time in between Terror and Mind of Evil, or does he go to the jail before the events of Terror of the Autons to set up the killer machine?
It's been suggested both ways, I've heard.
I know. An interesting fact, when I was in England in 2002, I got to go to Dover Castle, and I did reenact the Benton walking up this signaling for the guys to go up the hill during the battle. Another interesting thing about Mind of Evil 2, it's directed, and correct me if I'm wrong, by Timothy Combe.
hmm
Probably. Okay.
Yeah.
No. He directed Inferno the previous year.
Timothy Cohn
Oh.
did Silurians.
Thank you. Okay. But Silurians is great too, but anywho.
Let's go to the third story.
Claws of Axos.
I have two very favorites in this time period.
Diana, do you want to give the intro to the third? Let's have Diana do the intro to the third story.
Here, hold on. I'm just going to actually go with a synopsis because it's a lot easier than coming up with my own words. A group of gold-skinned aliens land on Earth and offer wondrous technology in exchange for fuel. The third Doctor, however, isn't fooled, uncovering the Axon's true nature and once again facing his arch-enemy, the Master. So he's basically, the Doctor will meet the Axos, not totally understand right away that the Master is behind it, as usual.
Well, and the government's very rah in this story. Yes, we need the Axonite. Yes, this will help our energy crisis. This is like what we're dealing with right now, in a sense. We need this ultimate solution, and the Axonite will be it.
Yeah, we want a magic bullet to solve all the problems.
Does that mean the Master is Russia right now?
Well, it might be.
Whoa!
It could happen. It could happen. Okay, I'm gonna butcher this. One of my favorite parts of Claws of Axos is Bill Filer.
Yes. Yes, Bill Filer.
It's like Captain Exposition right there. Captain Exposition right there.
And the funny thing is, cool. The funny thing is, he's British too.
Yeah.
The actor who played it is British, so he sure sounded American. As we talk about bad American accents in Doctor Who, he's better than the gunfighters, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Easy accents in the gunfighters.
Just a note for people who are watching us. We will go over 9 o'clock because we had the technical problems and started a little late. So just add 10 minutes of the stuff on the side, and that's what we're going to go with. Mm-hmm. So we have about 12 more minutes to talk about the episodes. Mm-hmm. So let's go on to the fourth story.
Colony in space. That happens on Earth and the Moon.
Is it the Moon or an Earth colony?
It's on Urbanka.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce it.
It's only on Earth for about 5 minutes.
Yes.
It's the first time he gets to leave.
It's a weird
in the
story.
TARDIS.
Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
Colony in. I just watched this actually a few minutes, about an hour ago or so. Colony in Space is a very strange Master story because the Master doesn't even show up until episode 4 out of 6. It's a story where the Master's presence, he sets off sort of the plot of the Doctor going to this planet and all that, but he's not even the central plot point of the story. It's about colonists versus a mining company, and the Master just shows up halfway through to mess everything else up even worse.
Yes, that's what I think. In my opinion, that's what makes it a good story. Because for the past few stories, we've been always seeing the Master right away. And if we're watching any show with any, like if we're watching Star Trek: The Next Generation, and Q shows up in every episode, we're gonna get bored fast. So we don't need so much Q and Renee.
Well, and that's one of the things that I was paying attention to when I was going through and rewatching all of these. Is that in the first one, the Master shows up in the first episode. But as you go through the episodes of each of these, the Master shows up later and later and later and later. I finished watching Frontiers in Space earlier this afternoon. He doesn't even show up till episode 3. We have no idea that he's been the puppet master throughout this whole thing. And that's the other thing that I like about these short little episodes is that you can get these aspects of the story that seem a little disjointed, and you say, well, okay, I know there's a problem here. I know there's a problem here, but where's the problem coming from? And then all of a sudden, in he pops with his briefcase, and his fake documentation to say, ha ha ha, I am here to save the day. I am whatever inspector or representative from Earth or whatever he is,
It was like
to magically explain the problems or magically solve the problems right there out in front of everybody. The problems that he himself has created. And I find that fascinating as far as the writing aspect goes.
So I want to say, like, it goes back to what we were discussing about the relationship with the Doctor and the Master, is that in Colony Space, their little banter of, well, you show me your documentation, show them, and back and forth about their documentation. Right. Siblings.
And then when they're at the Mind of Evil, when the Doctor has to produce, all of his documentation, and the prison monitor goes, I don't even think this is real, and he starts ripping it up. And then I also think it's hilarious where they have this giant running gag where the Doctor works for UNIT, and he's got this magical unit pass, but the thing is he never carries the dang thing. The assistant's always got it, but he doesn't have it, but she's got it, and you know what? I don't have time for this, I gotta go. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or as we discover in Battlefield, he just keeps it hidden in his past. So.
Okay, let's go on to the Daemons.
Ooh. Oh.
I have to say that the opening scenes,
Oh, yeah.
I love the visceral graininess of how they shot it. Oh, fantastic. I love the opening of that so much. It's so visceral. I love it.
I know.
Matt, do you have the same feeling when you see that, when it just opens up?
The Daemons was my first exposure to the Delgado Master, so it's got a special place in my heart. But yeah, the entire story is full of just this moodiness, and someone pointed out something interesting actually in the Daemons. I don't remember what cliffhanger it is. I think it's episode 3's cliffhanger is one of the few cliffhangers where the Master is in danger, not the Doctor or anyone else, where he summons Azal early and he's doing the no, go back, IT, no, you'll harm me.
Really
It's great. I mean, what can you say about the story? It's probably one of his best.
It is well directed as well. I mean, the directing on that one is wonderful. And believe it or not, I'm a techie, diehard, down to the core of my soul. I will look at your production quality every single time. God help me, but I love the lighting on it. Love the lighting.
What's perfect about it, like in that context, is where they shot it. Adelborn was the perfect location, in my opinion. In a way, the Daemons is kind of like a horror movie, if you think about it.
Yes, it was very much like that.
Yeah, we have this monster. We have this old witch. She is 97 and she's still alive. And the interior is the way it's shot, especially in the cave in episode 1, where Professor Horner is being interviewed. It's got a good flow to it, I'm not watching, a TV. I'm watching the TV with the Doctor and Joe, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, anyone else have anything on the Daemons? Oh, okay, let's go on to the Sea Devils. Oh, Matt's very happy. Matt.
I'll try not to talk too much. I've been talking too much anyway.
No, talk more.
You're fine.
The Sea Devils is another one of my favorites. I love the music in it. I hate to say it, I love the music to the Sea Devils. Delgado's great in that one. I mean, you get a fencing scene with the Master versus the Doctor. How cool is that?
Oh yeah.
And the thing that I loved about that fencing scene is that we see the Master utterly lose his crap. He just loses his crap. He is so mad at the situation. He's stabbing a drapery. You know, and the doctor who's, you know, has made it very, very clear that he is anti-violence, but if you push him, he can pick up the weapon and do the deed. That I think he is clearly the better fencer, even with the whole phrase, but you haven't seen my footwork yet, and then pushes him off. It's brilliant. I loved it.
Yeah, I enjoy the Sea Devils too, because at the beginning of the Sea Devils, I feel sorry for the Master. You know, he does all this awful stuff in the Daemons, and he gets put in jail, and you honestly think at the beginning that he's remorseful for his actions. And he's totally not, because he's plotting with Trenchard to bring the Sea Devils back up from the sea, you know? And it's, yeah, so it's a good story. And also they shot at real cool locations.
Yeah, I was going to say the locations.
Okay, locations. Anything else on the Sea Devils?
Oh, I want to share a quick interesting tidbit. So in the movie Scott Pilgrim versus the World,
One of my favorites.
During the DJ battle scene, there is music from the Sea Devils playing. You can hear little snippets from the Sea Devils soundtrack.
Okay. Next time anyone watches Scott Pilgrim versus the Saves the World, remember that. Okay, the Time Monster.
This is also one of my favorites. I love this because I like that there's all these other doctors that are involved, but I also loved the sets. Loved the sets. When you go back to where Omega is, and you have all these pustulant blister creatures, they were fantastic. Did I get something wrong, Matt?
Time Monster was the one with Atlantis. That's
okay. I must have gotten it wrong. Yeah, I have my notes all screwed up here, I think.
But the Atlantean creatures are really well designed. The makeup and the costume are great because it's a Greek fairy. I'm saying this right. It's like a Greek fairy tale. That being said,
yes.
I find Time Monster less than memorable.
Yeah.
It's just like the Master has this good idea, but you just know it's going to just be terrible, you know. And then we've seen adult John Levine in a diaper, so maybe that's.
What'd you think about Kronos in that?
I liked Kronos. I liked him. That was one of the high points for me in the story.
And let's go to the final Delgado appearance, which wasn't supposed to be his final appearance, but it ended up being his final appearance. Frontier in Space.
I also really like this one, and what I find hilarious in this one is all of the door slamming. I mean, it's in my head. Frontiers in Space is a bit like Noises Off. Because you get all this door slamming, and the Doctor and Joe just get that cell door open. They open it up after you, no, after you, and here comes the bad guys. You're coming with me. It's like, you must pay the rent. I can't pay the rent. You must pay the rent. I can't pay the rent. I'll loan it to you at 15.8%. That's one of the things that I liked about Frontier in Space. I also like the super cheesy spaceship on a string. Oh my god, I love those. Oh, do I love the spaceship on a string with a sparkler out the back? Yes!
BBC special effects at their finest.
Exactly!
Of course.
For 1973. I'm going to say this, and I'll defend it till the day I die. Frontier in Space is my all-time favorite Doctor Who story. Because, in my opinion, it's the start of a space opera. So, from the ship to Earth, the Draconian, back to Earth. And then in episode 6, when we don't expect it, the Daleks show up.
Yeah.
And, it makes you want to, you can talk about playing with the Daleks at the time, but I want to know more what's going on. And in my opinion, we really haven't. In 1973, we didn't have big space saga stories. To me, this is kind of like Star Wars. Not literally like Star Wars, but it reminds me of Star Wars.
Pre-Star Wars.
Pre-Star Wars. Thank you.
Yeah,
Before,
the question showed up. What was the question?
before we go to the question, and the final episode, the Deadly Assassin, the Peter Pratt one, which we've already talked about a little bit. Has there ever been a release of the script of the final game? Ben, do you know if there's ever released the script?
I super doubt it. There's probably an outline buried somewhere in the BBC archives, but that would
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it got very far.
Yeah,
You know,
probably
I
got
really like
I
to see Big Finish find that one.
I had to ask because that was supposed to be the episode to end series 11, and it never got made.
Yeah, because he basically got sick of being the master.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
So that was going to be his final appearance then?
Yeah, that would have been his final. Because I assumed that he had not died. Yes, that would have been his final appearance.
Okay.
Because he basically was kind of getting typecast.
Okay, and we've already talked about the Deadly Assassin a little bit. Does anyone have anything to add on that? We talked about Peter Pratt's appearance.
Yeah. What can you say?
It's a super intense story for a master story.
Yeah. Very intense.
Yeah, we've discussed a lot when we discussed Peter Pratt. So let's go to our questions. We have one question right now. So, if you're watching and you have a question, type it into the comments or into chat if you're on YouTube. We have a question from Bruce Rayberg on Facebook. He is the chair of the co-chair of the TARDIS tour with Natasha. But he has a question. Did the Doctor and Master see each other as regeneration faces, or do they see beyond the face? Thus, could they be meeting in an order different than what we think? Can Delgado be after Ainley or after Dewan?
Well,
it's the wibbly wobbly stuff again.
That's a toughie.
I've had conversations like this with Bruce. Again, it's also bringing in contemporary, because just the fact that is Sasha in between one of like Delgado and Pratt? You just don't know, because Missy didn't remember her generation prior. But so the wibbly wobbly, I would think just like River Song, they met out of order. I think that the Master and the Doctor would have that same thing.
Come on, type in some questions. Oh, that's
I have a little thing there. I've noticed that the Doctor, for the most part, recognizes Time Lords when he sees them. So I think that recognition of another of your species is built within the Time Lords. Now, a question that I do have, that if somebody else has this answer, the species of Time Lords, I was always a bit confused on that. Is their species called a Time Lord, or are you called a Time Lord after you've gone through the academy and gone through all your testing and everything else? Is Time Lord honorific or the name of the species?
Well, it's been suggested both ways. I mean, some of the extended stuff suggests that Time Lords are separate from the Gallifreyans, and there's some dialogue that has suggested other dialogue just calls them all Time Lords, so I guess it's up to personal.
Because I've always assumed that Gallifreyan was the name of the inhabitants of the planet, and that a Time Lord was somebody who's had the training, that there was specific training that was involved in that, because even though the TARDISes, the Tardai, even though Tardai are essentially partially grown, they're like cyborgs as far as a ship goes. They are partially grown and they're conscious. And it strikes me as that if you want to operate one of those things, that you would need to have some serious, mind-boggling sort of training in order to figure out how that works. I think that's what makes the Time Lord.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, but I remember in Deadly Assassin, everyone had their classes. Like I believe the doctor was the Prydonian class,
Hmm.
and the troublemaking class was called the Sheboygans or Sheboygan.
Sheboygans.
Thank you.
Sheboygan, great. Oh God, I love their
You know,
sausage.
but I think as the series goes on through Big Finish, or it's airing on TV, or through books, we tend to we'll get more of an understanding of Gallifrey. From what we've gotten now so far.
Let's discuss. I want to discuss then when Renee brought the point that a Time Lord could recognize each other, except for in series 12 of the new series, Jodie didn't recognize Sasha, or maybe she did and was playing it cool, but she didn't recognize Sasha as the Master until the end of that episode.
True. But how do we more quick, Renee?
Well, I just saw the question that somebody posted
Thanks, Joe.
on there about anybody Master-esque in the Troughton years.
The War Chief.
Yes.
War Chief.
Why can't I see that? Why can't I see that question on mine?
Who's like the Master yet less successful.
There we go.
And in some ways, maybe in the continuity, he is the Master, but we don't know.
And this is because I went back and rewatched the Troughton ones that are available.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing: is that I think that there was a Master-esque character within those years that we are missing, because when we first see the Master, the Doctor clearly knows who this is.
Oh yeah.
So I think that maybe within some of the episodes that are missing, or maybe in some storylines that we didn't get a chance to see in Doctors 1 and 2, that maybe that there was some more of that there. But we definitely have a sense that there is a history that is happening with this.
I'm gonna say Tobias Vaughn could be kind of Master-esque too. But I love the invasion, so that's my thing.
There's a question from Amber.
Oh, I know.
Amber has a question. I'm sorry.
I want to finish this one up really quickly.
Okay.
There is a Virgin Mystic Adventures book called The Dark Path by David McKenzie. That has the Master in it, right? But he's called
he calls himself Kozche. I can't pronounce Russian. Kolche.
I was going to say it was Kajansky, but that's Red Dwarf. So, if you can find a top... Man, I think you read it, though. Have you read it?
I've not read it, but I know what the story is. I know the story.
So if you have a chance to read that, because Virgin Mystic Adventures are freaking awesome. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a
Can
question.
you repeat the name of that book, please?
The Dark Path.
Renee, I'll PM it to you when we're done, too.
Yeah.
Okay, the question from Amber. If you haven't seen any of the classic versions of the Doctor and you could pick only one to watch, which one would you recommend to watch?
For the Master?
Yeah. So what's your favorite Master story, basically? Let's start with Renee.
I'm going to have to go with The Claws of Axos.
Okay.
I like that one because of the production quality. I like that one because you see the Master, yes, as an evil mastermind, but you also see him get stuck. So he's got to think fast on his feet. He can't rely on all the planning that he's done, because the Doctor is the one who's excellent at flying out of the seat of his pants. The Master plans the hell out of everything. And a true mark of a good character is if you can take that character out of something that he normally would do with all this super fancy schmancy planning, and then drop him in a situation where he's got to fly by the seat of his pants, and then he doesn't know what the outcome is going to be. I think that's gold right there.
Okay, Matthew.
Actually, I've got two answers for that. If my favorite personal Master story is the Sea Devils. I love the Sea Devils. I can watch the Sea Devils all the time. Man, DeGaldo's great. Tyre's story is great. Music great. If I had to recommend one, though, for someone who's new to the Master, I'd have to go with Claws of Axos. It's a solid Master story, and it encompasses basically everything about him. It's a great introduction for the Master to any new viewer.
Okay, Ben.
Well, I'm going to go off the path here a little bit. I would recommend, if you want to introduce somebody to a good master story, The Five Doctors. Because that was my very first introduction to the master, as Anthony England.
Yep.
But as a classic, for a classic series one, I'm going to just copy Matt here. Frontier in Space, but then once again, it's my all-time favorite story, so I'm biased.
And Diane.
Well, I'm reading the question, and it sounded more like which version of the Master, but which I'll still have to say is Delgado. We get to know him a lot as the Master, and on the show, I think that you still have to go with Terror of the Ontons, because for the what we have available today on whatever platform you're able to watch, that's our first introduction.
All of the Pertwee, I believe, is available on BritBox if you want.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Box.
We have a question for our last question of the night for Mary Barker via YouTube. Any truth to the story that Delgado's planned exit in the final game was to reveal that he was actually the Doctor's brother?
I've been hearing that for years.
Yeah.
They're brothers. You know, here's the thing I like about the Time Monster really quick. The scene where the Doctor, they do their dueling experiments against each other. That was a great moment. But I've heard it. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I think the Doctor and the Master have to be a separate entity. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they work as friends, but it's just going to be weird if they're brothers. That's my
Yeah, I don't think there was already any real plans for them to be related by blood, as far as I can think.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm the end all be all of any of this, but I've been part of the Doctor Who community since 1950. And and it's not like I talk to people across the pond. It's not like I have all this fantastic, great information flowing into my brain. But I've heard the sibling thing, but in my mind, it doesn't. I don't see it as a particularly strong story in my mind to make the Master and the Doctor siblings or some sort of familial relationship. Kind of smacks of As the World Turns or some other sort of soap opera kind of thing. That's just how I've always
That
felt.
was my soap opera.
Well, that does it for tonight. Couple
Wait
things
a minute,
to
you
bring
gotta get Diana. You gotta get Diana's response too.
Oh, Diana, what do you think? I'm sorry.
I think that they're not siblings. I don't even want to. Again, it's like that would just ruin a lot of things in probably most of our minds, and also just the way they act towards each other. Yes, they act like they could be siblings, like they're so close, or at least once were close. But I think it's just more like they were such really good friends that's how they go off of, and then they kind of parted because they went two different directions.
It's like one friend, like they're friends in high school, right? They're friends all throughout school, but then when it comes time to go to college, one of them goes to this big fancy Ivy League and the other one goes to state.
For community.
He goes to the community college over here and works at Pizza Hut, while this one goes up and gets this big fancy 4-year sort of shebang, and we all loving on you sort of deal, and Amber Hills with the Pizza Hut over here.
Thank you everyone for being here. Don't forget, we have something coming up Wednesday, the last Whovian standing game. And if you want to sign up for it, just go to the Council Room Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Council Room. And go to the event and sign up for it. We have Day of the Doctor all-day event on June 27th. And the virtual TARDIS tour on July 11th. And we have other panels coming up all this summer. So watch the Doctor Who, the Council Room Facebook page for events coming up this summer. I'd like to thank our panelists, Renee Peterson, Matthew Brockman, Ben Ellis, and Diana Tan. Our WebEx moderator, Natasha Kranz, and our YouTube monitor, Jim Seuss, and our Facebook moderator Amber Radin. Hey, we'll see you Wednesday night for the last Whovian standing. This is Hugh Gitlin. Good night, everyone.